Well, welcome, Dave, to Emotionally Unavailable. You just said the words to me before I hit record that you're emotionally available. And after a conversation with a friend yesterday, I'm about to do a series where I ask a bunch of people what their definition of being emotionally available or what emotionally unavailable means. So, now I want to ask you that. Sorry to put you on the spot, but you said the words and I was like, you know what? This is a great time to ask. So we're going to
Man,
start
live, you're
there if
gonna do
that's
that.
okay.
You're gonna put me on the spot live. No, that's okay. Well, what it means to me is really, you know, that when I'm available to manage my emotions, I'm also available to hear feedback from people and make changes that need to be. Years ago, I mean, any of my friends and people, I was probably not probably, I wasn't emotionally available, right? You couldn't talk to Dave about certain things, and it caused problems. And I didn't know it because I didn't have any self-awareness. There was so many different things that made me unavailable because of the traumas I experienced. And I didn't think I experienced traumas, right? But it doesn't matter what
Right.
we think we experience, but it's really how we act, how we see, how we learn. And that's where I got into trouble, and, I'll probably get into trouble more in my life. Like, I still might make mistakes, but I can explain it a lot better. Like, when I was
Mhm.
emotionally unavailable, yeah, I might not have been able to explain those things. I could tell you today, by being emotionally available, why I made a decision. You might be like, "Nah, man, that's still not cool," but I'll be like, "Alright, I know why I made it." But no, and we can learn from there. So I think that, it really is really impactful to understand where our emotions play into it or where our mindset and perspectives play.
You're bringing up an interesting point for me that I'm wondering, are you saying that one part of it is to be in touch with your feelings, feel them, not avoid and escape, but also evaluate, like being curious about your responses?
Well, for me, that's what I do. I mean, I've got
Yeah,
myself into a lot of trouble over the years. So, yeah, I think some of it is we need to evaluate, right? If we just go through it, and I spent a lot of part of my life, I'm embarrassed to say it, that I didn't see. I was just like, man, Melissa has to know what I'm talking about because we're friends. We understand those things.
right.
And you might not, even though we experience the same thing, you might be seeing it a little differently. And it's caused me a lot of trouble in my life. And, when in the past 6 years, I've really dove down into some parts of my life that I didn't expect to dive down to. And because
Yeah.
of that, I do a lot more self-evaluation. I also will check you, like, as a friend, I'd be like, "Melissa, what's going on? This is what I'm saying," or if you were like, calling me up all the time, I might say, "Hey, I need some space." I have the permission now for myself to say, "It's okay."
Yeah. I love that. I think that's a very important part of the work that people overlook is getting to a place where you understand your needs matter as much as anyone else, and to you, they should matter the most. They should be the most important thing, your needs, and how to express that. I think part of the work too is learning to say it from a non-triggered place, but sometimes it can come from a triggered place where it doesn't sound all that nice. But if you need space, saying that you need space is important, and I'd much rather you say it than fucking ignore my ass. Like,
Well, yeah,
even
and
though
that's almost
I'm a person who ignores people lately, so I kinda understand that too, where it's like, well, I don't have the capacity to respond to you. But if I do, and I say, "I'm just not in a social place," you gotta leave me alone, man.
well, and that's even emotionally available. So, like, by saying that, "Hey, today's not a good day." "Hey, Melissa, I can't do this. It's not a good day," or "I need 10 minutes," right? "I just got off a
Yeah,
call and I need space. Give me, a couple of minutes." And
yeah,
that's the grace that we have. And truthfully, again, pick it on Dave. Let's pick on Dave today. Is in the past, I wish people would have told me. You know, I might not have changed, don't get me wrong. I might have still been
sure.
the same dick that I was, but at some point I would have learned, because at some point I did learn. I put myself into therapy, and I was more open to it. Now that doesn't mean I was correct with everything I did afterwards,
Sure.
but it's all this learning part, and I think that's where we dive into, so many things. I mean, that's where all the work that I've done now got into here, and the people that I've assisted, and I'm a better coach now than I was before, because when I've learned a lot more, I've learned more about myself, that how I want to assist people through their challenges. We find the right mechanisms, the right supports for everybody.
Okay, let's back up. So you are from where?
From New York.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Born and raised. Do you still live there?
I do. I do. I grew up in Brooklyn, so Sheepshead Bay part of Brooklyn, Southern Brooklyn, if anybody who knows. And I was actually born in Texas, so I always
Oh, you
joke
were
around.
born in Texas.
Yeah, but I was only there for 6 weeks. So, because my dad was in the Air Force. So, thank
Oh.
shout out to all the service people out there. Thank you so much. Um, so they came back to New York, and they, lived and died here in New York.
Okay, and how
I
many
now live.
siblings do you have?
I have one sibling. I have a sister who actually is ironically back in Texas. My family moved. We all grew up here in New York, but my sister has moved around a bunch with her husband and family, and they're now outside Dallas.
Not far from me then, because I'm in Oklahoma.
From Dallas.
Like 3 hours where I
Okay.
am.
All
Yeah.
right, then I'll remember. I'll remember, man. We'll have to
See?
figure something out when I go
Exactly.
down. At some point, I have to go down to visit.
Yes. Okay, so is she older or younger?
She's younger,
Younger. How by how much?
about 4 years, 3
4
4
years.
years.
Okay. And would did you have like a middle class upbringing? You said dad
Yeah,
was
it was middle class.
military.
So it was definitely blue collar. My dad worked for the postal service. My mom was a professional in the education, and then she eventually
Okay.
became a teacher. So it was definitely, blue collar, and that was how they
Yeah.
taught me. I mean, to this day, I still have some of that blue collar mentality.
So are you Gen X or your parents boomers?
I think I'm a boomer. I think my parents are. I don't know what's
Silent
before boom.
generation? How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 57, so I'm old.
You might be
Yeah,
just
so
outside the Gen X range, but you might still be
in that boomer, yeah,
in the
it's
earliest. You might be in
yeah.
this weird in between space because my parents were born in 58 and 62, and they're in this weird sliver generation. So you might be in that.
Yeah,
What year were you born? I don't want to do the math.
68.
Okay, yeah. So uh I don't know, you might be Gen X. I don't think you're technically a boomer.
And that's really what it comes down to is embrace what you are. I'm, one of when I talk about on my podcast, peace, love, and bring a bat. That bring a bat is being authentic today. Being awesome. I'm awesome no matter what I do. I really try to bring those type of thoughts together, and that's one of the things we do.
So were your parents was specifically your dad because he was military and then postal service. My husband's dad did that too. Retired from the military and then started working for the post office. Was he like the staunch military guy that like,
Nah, nah, he wasn't.
he
He
wasn't?
wasn't. He was, I guess, Gomer Pyle. He was no, he wasn't Gomer Pyle. He was an angry person. Nah, he wasn't sweet. I'm not, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. At the end, we did, but
Oh,
you
good. You
know,
got to mend those fences a little bit.
yeah, I don't know because he had Alzheimer's, versions of Alzheimer's, so you don't know. But I know the last words I said to him here was "I love you," and I meant that. And he nodded. But
Oh, yeah.
he was not a warm, emotional person.
What
Um,
about your mom?
my mom was a warm, emotional person. My
Was
mom,
she?
but yeah, my mom was there, tried to hold everybody together, and in some ways did us damage as well. And not to pick on my parents. They did the best they can. Like we do the
Sure.
best we can with our families, with our friends,
Mhm.
with our kids, and there's no manual. We're growing up as
Hey guys, it's me. Emotionally Unavailable is produced 100% in-house by me with no team. So if this show has ever helped you and you want to give back, subscribe to the Patreon. There's several different levels with different benefits in each. Check the show notes and you can see what each tier subscription will get you. There's also lots of fun things coming down the pipeline for the Patreon subscribers, so get in early. You can get a workbook, you can buy merch, you can do any of the things, and all of that supports the show to help it keep going. Really appreciate every single one of you. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see what we continue to do together.
As we do it, and
Yes.
that's the challenge. But my mom was a more supporting, and that's why part of my story. I mean, the book behind me, there's a section about our mothers. Our mothers are the first heartbeats we hear. Whatever goes on afterwards, that's a true statement. And and among the last pictures the last picture that I was with my mom is in the book. It was her handing on top of mine uh, one last time. I knew she was towards the end of her life. She stopped eating and she wasn't
Mhm.
taking care of herself. So I went down to go visit, and I said, "Hey, this is what's going on." And she goes, "You're waiting for me to die?" I go, "I'm not waiting." I go, "You by not eating, you're causing it. Don't blame it on me." Yeah, it's not it's a you thing. You start
Yeah.
eating, that could change a lot of the things that are going on, and she chose not to, and, since I was in charge medically, but my sister aligned with our thoughts and my mother's thoughts, is, we let her go. Hard thing to do, but there's also a lot of respect in that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe in autonomy. So, what what were your adolescent and early adult years like? Were you, because I know that you've overcome some real mental health challenges. So
Yeah.
when did depression start? When did things
You know,
feel really dark for you?
I think the only time I wanna say that I was in a depression is, as I was going through a divorce for a second marriage. Uh, you
Okay.
know, and I've been sad before, but not depressed where it hurt to walk, right? I
Mhm.
and there's a difference, but then I was clinically depressed. In that I've gone through extreme sadness. I mean, I lost a girlfriend who I was gonna marry in my 20s. So when I look back at my life, I'm like, man, I've overcome some stuff. That doesn't make me any better or worse. I mean, look, I learned how to get through the teenage years being picked on and bullied and threatened, uh, and overcome. Even though my life was fine, compared to other people's lives, but when we go over that limit, I mean, look, even as a middle schooler, one of the PTSDs that I got, picked on, the teacher was supporting it. I was doing an oral paper and I spelled the words wrong, so I was reading it wrong, and he kept on, yelling at me, and then everybody started making fun of me, which, ironically is now I don't mind being on stage, and when I stutter, I stutter. You know, so it's those things that come up unintentionally. Like, I don't think the gentleman, he might have been a dick, but I don't think he tried to injure anybody, but the truth of the matter is he did, right?
Yeah.
The fact is, even if we don't intend on hurting somebody, that's not necessarily up to us to decide what hurts you. If I say something to you, Melissa, and if I hurt your feelings, I'm not allowed to own that part of that conversation that I didn't hurt you. Well, my intentions, I could say, look, I'm sorry, and I didn't intend to hurt you, but I can't tell you that you weren't hurt. It's tough. I always intend on caring about other people's feelings.
I do think intent versus impact should always be evaluated. Like, it doesn't really matter what you were trying to do if it hurts somebody. I also think one of the areas that I've really grown in is for myself taking accountability for how I perceived something.
Sure,
So
100%.
I think that really matters too. But I mean, if you're talking to people who haven't necessarily done as much work as you, then they don't necessarily think about that. But I also think, I don't know, that like some people believe that you should alter your behavior based off of somebody else's feelings, and I don't think that that can be true as a blanket statement because everybody feels whatever and it's too hard to try to make everybody happy. Some people maybe just aren't meant for you, you know?
Yeah, no, and that's it. Again, try to be respectful, right? Try not to leave anybody hurt, not to try to hurt anybody. I know what my feelings are. So the books, I didn't send a copy. I put it out there. It's out there. I might have mentioned it a bunch of times, but I don't go, oh, you better read it. Because I wrote this something like I'm not. That's not where
Yeah.
I'm at. But you know, again, because I believe love is an energy, and you can't tell me that
Yeah.
everybody doesn't need love. So no matter what,
Right.
I haven't spoken to in years, but if they called me up, guess what? I'd answer the phone. I have friends or friends' kids that would, like I haven't seen in years, but if I get a call, I'm like, what the hell? Let's go. What's up? Unless you really did me dirty in a way, I also have that forgiveness. I can't tell, whatever you've experienced, Melissa, I can't tell you, you have to let go. I just know for me, life's too short, and I don't wanna hold on to stuff that isn't mine to hold.
Yeah.
And including if you did me dirty, alright, that's not me. Those was your actions. How I choose to react to that becomes something different. And
Yeah.
that and that's part of my growth, man. I wasn't always like that, man. I'd love to, get back at you and nah, man, my human side of me, still every now and then, right? When people talk about the bring a bat. They're like, "Come on, we'll bring a bat." And I'm like, "No, no. It's about bringing awesome thoughts, being authentic. That's what we wanna do. I'll take my swing at my shot, at my pitch, because that's what I do when I wanna soar."
So tell me about what led to the suicide attempt.
It was a ending of a marriage, and it came out of nowhere, from my view.
How
I
long had you been married?
8 years. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, 9 years, 9 years.
And she
Um
had children from a previous relationship?
Yeah, yeah, which yeah, which is tough when you're blending families,
Mhm.
that's never easy, and, especially at the beginning of the marriage, I was, a lot louder. I mean, through the marriage, I put myself through therapy, and I changed a lot. I didn't know all the things that I needed to change, right? I changed. Everybody acknowledged it, and I didn't know how she was feeling. She was also I don't wanna speak she was going through whatever she was going through as
Right.
well, so it was a bunch of, perfect storm situations, and, I take responsibility for my actions.
So, if you attempted suicide, were you basically feeling like there was just no hope of better? Like that this
I
was the end, like you couldn't ever feel better again?
I didn't see a path forward,
Yeah.
truthfully, and
Yeah.
I'd lived a really good life, so up until that point, not that I haven't lived, even better afterwards,
Sure.
but up until that point, I was well traveled, I had a job, I had money, and what I was being told, one of those limiting beliefs that we were being told, all of this is my fault.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, all right, I have life insurance, man. I'm out. I'll solve all your problems. I'll solve your problem, and your problem. I'm out. And I was very comfortable with that decision. I
Mm.
wouldn't be comfortable with that decision today for different reasons, and I've grown through that. So, people always ask me that next question: "How do you know you're not going to do that again?" Oh, I learned the lesson. I learned a bunch of different things, and I also learned to use my resources, which was the most
Yeah.
important part. I knew all those things that I needed to do. I knew how to help Melissa when she comes into my door, but I wasn't helping Dave. So now I make sure Dave is, again, air mask. You put your mask on first before anybody, because if not, you pass out. And
Yeah.
that was sort of what that pass out was. I mean, I was very comfortable in my situation where that day I wrote 40, more than 50 letters to people
Dang.
before because I because I was like, hey, I just wanted to explain to Melissa. This is not your fault. Nothing you could have done. This was a choice, and you know, peace out. Something to that. And I took my time to do that. And then at one point when I was in the act, I felt my eyes closing, and I thought that that was it, man. I was at peace. Where I know a lot of people we hear, like, like jump off a bridge or something, and they have second thoughts. I was like, all right, God, you and I are meeting each other. Let's have it
Did
out.
you feel like everybody was better off without you?
I did. I did.
Yeah. Yeah,
One
that's how I felt too.
100%. I'm like, if I'm the one, and because that's what I was being told, if I'm the one causing problems, all right, Dave's out. I again, what we were talking about before. I never want to hurt anybody. If anybody knows me, even back in the day, I wasn't looking to ever hurt anybody.
Yeah,
That's the thing is, while I might not have had the right beliefs, I might not have had the right behaviors, or even self management of myself. I wasn't looking to hurt anybody. I'm not looking
right.
to hurt, um, because I had grown up in such hurt. During my teenage years, I didn't think of suicide, but there was times that I was so hurt. So I understood that I don't want to make anybody, but sometimes our actions make us feel that way also. So I
Yes.
so, some of the actions I behaved in, I'm yelling. I mean, nobody I don't hit I've never hit my kids or anything like that. Have I yelled and scared them? Yeah, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
in fact, not probably, I'll guarantee I did.
Get it? It's like, for me, the shame I felt that I was just, like, covered in when I could see the pain that I caused
Yep.
my spouse, my kids reflected back at me, it was too much. Like, I
Well,
could not
that's how I
handle how
felt.
bad that
I
felt.
was right, that was how I felt. I'm like, "Man, I'm out. I'll be a blip in their memory," you know?
Right. Oh, no, no way they need me. Like, for sure. Like, I was so convinced that it had reached a level where literally I was causing more harm than good, and that eliminating me from the
Yep,
equation was going to be the best thing for everyone. Like, my
100%.
whole family, my kids, people I worked with, like everyone, that my presence on this earth was now toxic to the earth. I mean, that's
That that
how
that's
bad
how I
I felt
felt.
about
That's why
myself.
I said I was comfortable with the transition, and, whatever happens,
Yeah,
kick it off. But that being said, I don't wanna leave it that way. I wanna leave that in those past 6 years, what I've done is written 10 plus books, solo books, plus compilations. I don't know how many compilations. My podcast, Top 1%, I did a TEDx talk. So it is possible to change. A lot of people survive, which then causes more shame. Don't take that
yeah,
shame. Don't wear that shame, like you said, the shame, there's a way out. No matter what you've done, the shame, I get it. I get the shame. I've felt the shame, and no matter what you've done, there's a redemption somewhere, and that was one of the books I wrote, is redemption. And, it doesn't mean that everybody forgives you. That doesn't mean, you
right,
know,
right.
happily ever after, but you gotta make your own peace, and
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say, it means you're able to forgive yourself.
yeah, and I still beat up myself on some things, and but for the most part, I I, I give myself grace. I did the best I could at that time, and now I'm definitely working better.
Good. So, okay, something that people have asked me, because I didn't attempt, I just made a plan, but because I put the date so far away, it gave me time to,
Yep.
get my shit together. But something that people have asked me is, okay, well, what did the early days of getting better, healing, whatever words you want to use, look
Oof.
like for you? And it looked like a lot of crying and a lot of just trying different stuff for me. What did it look like for you? You come out of an attempt, you've survived, you don't know what to do. What did the
Yeah.
beginning phase look like for
So the
you?
night I came back, I had disappeared for 36 hours. I came back, I called my therapist, right away, and I said, "Hey, Bill, this is what happened over this weekend." And he goes, "Are you safe right now?" It was right before the Jewish holidays, so just that he even took my call was, because we had that relationship. And I go, "I am. I promise you, I'm not risking your license. I'm gonna be fine." He goes, "Okay, I'm gonna call you tomorrow night when the holiday's over, blah, blah, blah." I go, "I'm fine. I promise you." And I was. But that was where I went into that depression. I didn't get out of bed. I didn't eat. I didn't, when you really can't function. They made me go to, a psychiatrist and get on medicine, and I was like, "I don't wanna be on medicine." And, the psychiatrist, "Well, you have to be for right now, or I have to institutionalize you." And I was like, "No, no. Okay." I had a job. I had a I didn't wanna necessarily share everything with the job yet.
Yeah.
And and we did, and I struggled every day, and I learned some new resources. Actually, somebody had walked over to me and was like, "You better just leave her alone." And I go, "I haven't done anything." I yell, right? So that guilty as charged. Um, but you're white trash. You're a mental case. You're this. You're that. And I'm like, "You knew about the suicide attempt, and you're calling me that? Okay,
Damn.
now I know who you are. That's okay, right? Right? I
Yeah.
it was hard, don't get me wrong. I went into my car and I cried. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I you know, devastating, but I was like, "Fuck you. No way."
Yeah.
Um, okay, so right now, I still don't know how to get up. I still don't know how to do all these things that I'm doing, but I'm gonna damn well do them. I don't know what that looks like, and then you just remember who you are, going back to yourself, and, it was little steps at a time. Uh, I was fine being, banished from the world, keep myself away from everybody, and then I was like, "No." So when I was in the act of the suicide, I heard a voice, and it wasn't God, but it was this Grandpa Mike who was affiliated with my ex-wife. And he said, "Go back and tell your story." So at the beginning, that's what I did, and that's how I got my TEDx talk, is talking about suicide and the havening and the things. And I used to think that that was what I was supposed to do, because from that story, you watch the TEDx, it's not the greatest performance, truthfully, being honest, but 8 families reached out to me because I speak like this. I'm very frank, and I'm willing to talk to anybody who's experiencing things. While I'm not a therapist, I'll get you to a therapist. I'll get you to people to like Melissa. I'll get you. I have a resource, a stable of people. But by talking about that, other people who are in this act or thinking about it, planning things, were able to talk to me. And I can tell you only what I experienced. Because I also had families members of somebody who was successful, and I spoke to them and I said, "Please understand, I don't know your family member. I'm sorry, but this is what I experienced. And I promise you, I will not allow myself to go back there, because I now know the love, of other people." You always hear about things, but there are people who step up in your life, or in your life, and you don't know what you do. And that's why
Mhm.
now I do all these things to not it's not about me. It's not about my message. The message is we all can get up. But what the message is also, I did it, and if I could do it, I'm not that special. You can do it. Let's just figure out a way. We just need to figure out the right way. Thomas Edison said, you know, he spent 1,000 ways to create the light bulb, and then he goes, "Well, I found the 999 ways that didn't work, but when I found the way that works, there's always a way." That's why I learned so many resources to assist me and others to heal people, and man, it's worth it.
So, what are some of the things that you've done that have helped you?
The greatest thing that I've learned is called havening. I was one of the again, I was in therapy, and my therapist was like, "Hey, I'm gonna teach you how to touch yourself." I'm like, "Hey, I've been there." I was 13. Right, and he goes, "No, no, no, no." And
Not
so
like that.
yeah, yeah. So havening, so I'll teach you, is just by rubbing your hands. So if you rub your hands in a circular motion for like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, it starts to create delta waves in our brain. And that will automatically calm us down after a few seconds. Our breathing, right? Breathing exercises. I use that. the havening touch. There's a bunch of different ways to do the havening touch. You can rub your shoulders, just nice, or rub your forehead. All of that creates
Yes.
delta waves.
Yes.
And people do these things before, but I had been certified when he taught me this, and I was improving, and I would do it not only in my sessions, and I was improving, and he goes, "You got to get certified." So again, I didn't know that I needed to be out there to do all these things, but I did, and I just kept on doing it. So those are among the things I learned. Different ways of hypnosis, because we play with our mind. It's our mind who's could be our biggest enemy, and failure is we just have to learn, like Thomas Edison. We just have to learn for the right way. So the way we do it, when we break our pattern, those pattern interrupts, that's where the power is, and that's really where I've assisted veterans overcoming diagnoses around traumas, and I've worked with people. When I got certified, you have to work with 35 people, 35 case studies, to get certified in havening. And, so asking people, "What are you scared of? What are you this?" And friends. And then I said, "Well, you don't have to share with me. You don't have to tell me. As long as you identify it, we can work through it." And they started seeing some differences. And I was making a difference in lives. I was telling the story that I needed to tell. And I've now gone through much more stressful things than that, and I've been able to handle it. You know, when you're going through it, when you get hit in the face, it's gonna hurt no matter what, but you know how to handle it much better, and
How do
that's
your
where I'm at now.
relationships look different?
Much better, because now I'll ask, like if I'm in a romantic relationship, I'll say, if I'm just gonna pick on you, Melissa. Like if you're not communicating, and I'm like, and it's not feeling right, I'm like, look, can you just give me an answer to this? Yes, no, or man, you suck, and that's okay. That's feedback that I can learn from, right? I don't know, because that was really why I didn't know a lot of how we're feeling. Even though I asked those questions, I was okay with not getting those answers, and
Mhm.
some of that might have been, on Dave, in that people weren't willing to give me the feedback because they felt I wasn't willing to listen to it. I don't know. I don't know those answers, but I'm still young enough. I'm 57. I won't go through the rest of my life with hidden answers, or I'll just fill in the blanks, because
Mhm.
when we fill in the blanks, I don't fill in the, you know, unicorn and lollipop blanks. I usually fill in the dark blanks. They don't like me. I'm not worthy. All of the stuff. It always will work on us, but you start healing yourself, you can handle it a lot better.
Yeah, I agree. So you have a podcast, Peace, Love, and Bring a Bat, right?
Peace, love, and bring a bat. Yep, you got
Yeah,
it.
so tell us about that.
Man, I love it. So that came out in 2021. We've already crushed through 200 episodes, and I got a bunch in the bank, including yours. And it's great. It started out when I wanted to have people to know about resources, right? It's just it
Mhm.
was originally very spiritual, very even woo woo.
Yeah,
And there's a part that works. I know people might not believe it, but I got into it, and
I'm pretty woo-woo.
yeah, no, I think we all are, when we wanna let be our most authentic selves, because it feels good. You know,
Yes,
think
because that
about,
is your truest self, to connect to that
yeah,
spirit part of you.
100%. Again, our brains, right? The ego part of our brain wants to play games. They want the
It
fun stuff,
does, doesn't it?
and energy. I mean, if you look at religion or anything like that, it's the same energy, and
Mhm.
how we move, because love is unconditional. That's what love is. And, so we understand that peace and love, what it means in ourself, because we sometimes have the biggest wars within ourself, and that was what my problem was, is the
Yeah.
biggest wars were within myself. But I've learned how to not only win some of the battles, I've win some of the wars that I fought for myself, and, where there's times you don't get the answers you want. But for me, letting go of the things that are on my heart, that has really allowed me to write all these books. They're not the best books in the world. I'm not Ernest Hemingway, but I love when somebody reads one of my books and they're like, "Wow, I love it." And that's, one of the things that I love hearing because it touched them. And, one of my stories is when I put out my book, Redemption, and my friend's daughter read the book. It was one of her summer reading projects. My friend made her daughter read. I come back from vacation after releasing the book, and she was like, "I have some questions for you." And I'm like, this little 12-year-old kid. And so now, in the next month or so, I'll have the second book of the book because of her. It's a beautiful thing. And that's where, I've been lucky enough to help people along with their own story. I've done some
Yeah.
ghostwriting. I align people with their message. It's the real story of who we are. That's why I don't mind sharing my story, because I want people to know, not that I'm special. Um, I want them to know that their story matters and their story can actually take them to in places that you would have never imagined. And I know it's done it for me.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Dave, I've loved having you today. Tell us where we can find you.
Dave Chametzky. You look for David Chametzky. I think I'm the only one in the world. Uh, so it makes that makes it easier. So that's my website. I'm on social media exactly as Dave Chametzky. And if not, look for the teal guy with the bat. You'll definitely find it. And I'd love to talk to people. If anybody needs somebody to talk to, I'd make myself available.
That's really cool. And make sure you check out the show notes because I'll have those links and links to your podcast, Peace, Love, and Bring It Back. Thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
here
much.
today.
I
Okay, I'm
appreciate
going to
it.
press stop if you'll hang up for 1 sec.
Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share.
Emotionally unavailable. INDEPE and cut.
All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.